Welcome to Objections with C. Stanley Willis. Stanley Willis is with me. I'm Michael Morris. And C. Stanley, we have a guest today.
How you doing over there?
I'm good.
Yeah, Kelly Willis. Kelly's the senior partner at our firm, I'm the managing partner. She's the senior partner. She
manages you.
Yeah, she manages
as a managing partner.
We're also married.
Yeah, we're also married.
That's what I thought you were going to do first.
Admit that.
I think it was, I don't know that was necessarily an omission. I think he was trying to build you up like the Sergeant Master General Admiral.
Yeah.
And then also my wife. Is that what you were doing?
Yes.
I was going to say, were you trying to, was that like the Notebook you were eventually going to get there?
I was eventually going to get there.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
But, I was trying to,
I was giving you credit. I was hanging on to every word.
Trying to, the professional achievements and all that kind of stuff.
She literally went into your introduction and said objection and moved on to something else. How do you feel about
the show?
We literally, I don't think I've even used that term in 60 shows, and we finally got to it.
60 episodes, we finally have an objection.
Yeah. Brought to us by a counselor. The reason, once again,
because you're an idiot.
Yeah, this is the family show. This is the Walton family Christmas show.
Yes.
But I thought
are we going to sing?
We will afterwards. Okay. Kelly is already shaking her head no. So we're going to move on to the puppet part of this presentation. But I thought what was important is that we're doing this show to talk about the future of this country. And I mean that in a very wide branch, but I wanted to get into the fact that there are people that are ranting and raving in the streets are so happy that Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI.
Yeah, it's actually frightening.
It is frightening. And I thought what was important was to talk about it. I like the legal aspect of things, but also I would say the three of us, Kelly, you'll say you're an independent, right?
I am.
And I am like France. I am here to watch the bombs go off, and eventually I will go into the cafe and choose something. But I don't think that there is a left and right anymore. I think there is an emotional left and right, and I think people they're choosing sides when both sides don't care about them.
And the stupid thing is Trump's place got raided, and honestly, you almost have to remove the title. You have to remove Trump from it because everybody's making a decision about this based upon whether they hate Trump or they love Trump. And the problem is, I don't really hate Trump, but I don't really love Trump. He's like a caricature of himself, I think, and from that standpoint, as a person, he's an actor in my viewpoint. What's relevant is you have an ex-president whose home has just been raided for some charges that nobody really seems to know what they are, but they're kind of a moving target because, the New York Post said that it was about some historical documents, and then now they're saying it's about the nuclear codes. Neither of those things seem actually something that would require, because when you think about, okay, he took historical documents. If he did take historical documents, well, that's all fine, but can't you just send a page down to say, hey, we need those back? Do you need the FBI to do that? And if it's the nuclear codes, aren't those things changing?
Yeah. Well, that's what Kelly said before we started. Like,
do we only have?
Anymore?
It's like we're talking earlier. It's like Spaceballs, right? It's like, what are the nuclear codes? 1, 2, 3.
Do you remember when Nancy Pelosi said that Trump was unfit because he was fat and all that? And then in the January 6th trial, they're acting that Trump John Wick the shit out of every Secret Service agent in that vehicle that has plate glass and all this other stuff. Somehow he was beating the shit out of them with his wife with him, the first lady. And he's able to do that. He took the nuclear codes. He's going to break into the White House or wherever the codes apply. What? This is a goose chase. And I think to me, the way it looks is this is to bully you and say, if you want to run in 2024, we're going to make your life even worse than it is.
That is completely what it's about. Kelly,
I want to ask you this question in terms of when you see this happening, because we were kind of talking before we started.
We were, yeah.
it is anybody that's rooting for this. Tell people what you said. Anybody that's rooting for this as though it's a good thing. What do you think of that?
I think that's sad because you're next. Like if they can do this to him, we actually had this play out a couple months ago with a friend of ours.
Yeah.
The IRS came without notice to his house, took computers, files, papers, everything. He really did not know why they were there. And 3 months later, it turned out to be
Yeah, the IRS
mistake.
actually said this was a mistake. We're sorry. Give all his stuff back, but you don't get your life back, right?
Right.
You don't get your life back. You don't get the stigma back because everybody knew this happened.
People in his neighborhood texted me. You wouldn't believe what's happening at his house. And I am thinking, oh my gosh, he killed somebody. They found a body, right?
You're excited. Oh, you mean in a bad way. Sorry. I wanted to clarify that.
Yes, right. And he ended up reaching out to Stan, and we've talked to him since then, and it turns out they just made a mistake. But the embarrassment was already there.
Mistake.
What?
Maybe it wasn't a mistake.
They just didn't find what they were looking for,
Right.
but he never really knew what they were looking for.
Right.
Because it was the IRS, so they don't have to disclose that.
But can
and
you
it was
can't
really
do anything
sad.
about that, right?
Can't do
You can't
well.
fi-
I mean, you can file suit and everything, but what's the remedy? I mean,
You're-
what's the
Right.
what's the remedy? I mean, it's like when a newspaper has to retract its false
Damage is
headline. I
done.
mean,
those are my favorite because the headline is here, and on
Right.
page 80. Well, I'm sorry, it's a newspaper today. On page 9, because there's nothing in it.
right between Family
By
Circus
the way,
and Calvin.
we made a mistake. Sorry.
It's too late.
I hope that in your friend's case, the 87,000 IRS agents will help remedy that and maybe move the couch back.
I mean, in the hiring environment we have, first of all, it's going to be difficult to find 87,000
Couldn't we put them to better use?
Right. And
Can we do the math on what we think that they make? Wouldn't you say that on average they'd have to make $40,000?
at least I'd say.
Oh, at least.
But let's just say that. So all that money that's going into there, you've got to keep your job. I feel like it's like Quicken Loans. You better sell some more mortgages every single month or you're out the door. You got to justify why you have that many agents. But it's not going to affect anybody making under $400,000 because President Jim Biden said that. That is what he said. And then he fell asleep.
Well, I know he said
you
said
read the monitor.
he said that, but they're not bringing 87,000 agents in to enforce laws against billionaires. That's
And here's the thing. I don't care how careful you think you are. I don't care if you've hired an accountant. If the IRS is coming for you, you've made a mistake somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we got audited, 15, 20 years ago. The IRS agent calls and he's like, hey, do you guys still have kids? Yeah. Well, you haven't claimed them for 2 years. Somewhere they dropped off your tax filings. You remember this? And it ended up being in our favor.
Yeah.
But the point is, they're going to find a mistake.
Right.
They just are. So don't think you're immune. It's all of us.
I want to get back to you, Stella, about teleprompters. First, I want to say this. Always pay your taxes because whenever I get a bill or something from the IRS, I throw it away right away. They will send that shit over and over again. So I don't want people to think that's okay. Now, I'm going to continue to do that because I just don't like opening mail. But you were talking about the teleprompter situation. Merrick Garland, it's breaking news that he's going to... Why? What? Have you ever heard the CIA or the FBI have to answer for anything?
No.
He's reading off this teleprompter as though they're writing it in crayon while he's saying it. And he's leaning like this, like he can't get a good view of the words. And I thought Pearl Vision or somebody would have taken care of those specs if you can't see it. But somebody wrote this for you. You didn't even write it. And it was basically, we executed this. I signed off on it. So you find nothing again. There's no recourse against the government.
No, there's no recourse, and I think that fundamentally this is just political grandstanding. I think that the Democratic Party as a whole is completely in panic mode.
Did you call them assholes? Oh,
I
a hole.
did not.
A hole.
I said whole, not asshole, just whole.
Got it.
Yeah. I think that as a whole, the party is in panic mode. I think it's at this point they think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to lose big in the midterms, and they're trying to. I mean, essentially, when Hillary was elected, all the same things that happened during the next election were already in place and going on, and Trump was still able to pull that out, mostly because she was such a horrible candidate.
I love those pantsuits.
But wait a minute. They're still confused why the educated white woman didn't vote for her.
Right.
You know what
But I think the 2000 Mules thing has kind of exposed that, combined with Muriel Hemingway's book. Muriel,
the girl from Dynasty.
no, the from the reporter from it's Hemingway, but it's not,
it's not Mira, because that was that girl that I think used to date Jackson Brown.
She was the writer's daughter. This is anyway, the reporter Hemingway, she wrote a book about election fraud. That was really interesting, because based on her research, she kind of came back to that there wasn't really in her thing, the thing that swung the election wasn't fraud, so to speak, but it was Mark Zuckerberg donating money and buying the poll workers,
right,
and the people who were going out to collect and encourage people to vote, and that's in her view how the election was affected. And then you have the 2000 Mules,
right? Dinesh D'Souza's
right.
Documentary. Here's my question / fear. The government is getting more and more powerful over our lives. Like, so now on Twitter, if you post something, it will put a warning to you, but also the person that's reading it. Facebook can ban you and take your pieces down.
Facebook jail.
Yeah, which I've been in many times. We've discussed on this show. I am constantly in jail for something.
Are you confusing Facebook jail and actual jail?
I will say it's more uncomfortable to be banned from social
Isn't that how
media.
you two became friends?
Yeah.
Yes, I needed an attorney, and Stan was on a drunk in the cell with me. Yeah,
we had to call Nate to bail us out.
Yeah. Nate, we got busted at the Waffle House again. Don't ask questions. Come get us. And he came in the Schonermobile and picked us up. What I see is that
Nate's not mic'd up today. What's up with that?
Because Kelly's on his mic, I believe, and also he's sleeping through the show again.
Somebody wake him up.
This guy, we've put him to work already. We've done shows, we've done parody things. He's off for the weekend. Yeah. My question is, does changing parties in charge of things, is it going to get better? Because this is why I say that. If the Republicans get back in power, I'm not hearing them go, hey, we won't do any of this.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
No, they already wanted to do it back when George W. was in there.
That guy is the best painter we've had as a president that I've ever seen. Yeah. Which one?
I kind of like Hunter Biden's work.
I like the way he does it. He expresses himself.
He's made more money off of painting than any other painter in history.
Have you seen those paintings? I think I could do one better if the lights were out in here. Maybe they're just selling because of his name. Like, he's not Basquiat. I'll just say that.
Yeah. You think it's because of his name?
Well, they're all going over to the Ukraine. I don't know that the pictures exist anymore, but they were hanging. That's what I don't understand is that say that Trump, I feel like they're looking at Trump as though he's this outlier. So let DeSantis win, or let whoever Republican win, because they're still part of the same fraternity and Trump is not. I feel like, I don't know that they'll ever leave him alone at this point.
Well, not if he keeps refusing to do what they tell him.
Right. And if he's a deflection, it keeps us.
Do you know what happened on the same day?
Keeps us.
What happened on the same day?
I did read this.
Hunter B.,
yes.
the painter fella.
Yes.
They were turning over all that evidence. They're building that case. Same day.
No one knew it. No one covered it. It was on some outlying stations, but it just was suppressed.
It was the same thing as Spygate. Yes. Spygate's not a real thing, but yet they have attorneys taking documentation of all these things.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right. And so he is, if they can keep a large part of us deflected or amused or whatever it is, we're not watching what's really going on.
Do you think that
And
it's
I don't think the agenda changes either side. But as I shared
No.
with you, I am an independent. I've been a registered independent my whole life. I've never voted a primary. I drive them all crazy. They call and email and send me more.
I always tell whoever calls, yes, I'll vote for them. It doesn't matter what party, because I don't want them to sell me
You're
on
such
it.
a whore.
Yeah, totally. And they're
Oh,
like,
wait,
so
am
we
I
can
allowed
count
to
on your
say
vote?
that?
You bet your ass you can. And they're like, really? I don't even ask the name. I'm in. And so that great, we got one. And I show up at the poll and I'll vote for anybody I can. I'm going to write in Andrew Yang's name. Oh, I do have this question. Mm-hmm. Andrew Yang wants to start a third
Yang
party.
gang? Is that what you want?
The Yin Yang gang.
Yang
Wants to start his own party, and now he's kind of getting some other people that are kind of on board with this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Will a third party ever be able to take off, or will Andrew Yang have his Mar-a-Lago apartment raided for doing something different?
I think there's that's a big question. I think that both parties that we currently have kind of been in their leadership. Not everybody in both parties, but the people who are the leaders in both parties have fallen under the influence of the same people. And those people are largely the wealthy people in the U.S., the wealthy people in Europe, and the European Union, and some of the banking cartel.
I love that you said cartel. I was waiting for that.
But fortunately for us, there are enough people in the banking world that think that what these elites want to do is bad for them. So they're starting to push back and fight it on some places. And there are some politicians that are willing to stand up to that.
In both parties.
In both parties.
I
think like a Tulsi Gabbard, Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem. I think that these are some people who are willing to say, we want to do what's in the best interest of our country.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean for the really wealthy people in our country, but for the general population in our country. I think there are a few people that are doing that. And so there's hope out there.
Is there also change? Because that worked before. Hope and change.
I'm not sure that electing. I'm not sure that electing someone in either party. Well, it depends on what they do. Let's just say that Ron DeSantis or a Tulsi Gabbard get elected. What they're going to have to do is surround themselves with
armed guards.
Armed guards,
too.
but with non-career politicians, and then
Wait a minute. What'd you say?
with
Non-career politicians.
right,
Do you know who that was?
Wow.
Joe Biden.
Right.
Guy's been an independent his whole life.
yeah,
It was
Yeah.
never meant to be a career.
right. But
And it's
they're
also not supposed to be a 12-month-a-year job. You're not supposed to get paid for that. You're supposed to take your wagon wheels, haul ass down there for a month, do some voting, and go back to your town.
But I think that the corruption in DC is so pervasive. I'm not sure that it can be corrected.
Both parties.
But see, that's why I think if you add a
Both
third
parties.
party in there, it still doesn't matter because lobbyists exist. So for a third party to exist, it can't be three people. You have to build a base where they actually would have some say. If you don't get lobbyists out of DC, if you don't get big pharma money out of DC, there's no way to undo it because when people will say, well, we got to change the media. You can't because the media is paid for by big pharma, insurance companies, soda, beer. All these things are propagating this. So if you want to change this, you will affect the stock of these companies. Your 401k is tied to it. So when people say they hate capitalism and they do it on their iPhone while they're watching Netflix on their $2,000 couch, you don't hate capitalism. You're frustrated that you're not on the top of this pyramid and you're somewhere in the middle or towards the bottom. That's what you're unhappy about.
But if we don't have capitalism, it's worse. There's
Totally
no
agree.
middle.
Right.
There's the lower and the upper,
But
and there is no middle.
I think it was between 2016 and 2019. All I heard was we should be a socialist country.
Right.
Go see what's going on in Uganda. Go see what's going on in a communist country. See how it's going. Everyone is failing except the people at the top who are determining resources.
Right. In coming, circling back onto the Trump thing and the way that that's all going, the thing that to me is kind of frightening. I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if you would have started talking about the Davos crowd or the World Economic Forum and the 2030 agenda and all those things, you were a conspiracy theorist. But now you just go look at their website. I mean, literally, just go to the World Economic Forum and read their website. They're completely out front with what they're trying to do.
Do you think that they thought that they were going to topple everything, like they were on top of it, or do you think they were like, oh, somebody broke them? Like, how do we know about Klaus Schwab? Like, to me, that sounds like the German Santa Claus. That guy's the most evil person backed by George Soros. So now, remember when you couldn't say George Soros' name on the news? You still can't because he's paying money to keep his name off there.
Right.
But he was on Australian 60 Minutes in 2012 or 2013 and said his goal is to bring down the United States.
Yeah, he did say that.
And nobody was like, that's bad.
No,
like-
but
Now we're welcoming him.
it's like now,
Yes.
but the difference between then, and that was only 5 years ago, the difference between then and now is that they're not even pretending to hide behind the curtain anymore.
But why are they not? That's the part that's stunning
I
to
think
me.
they think or they thought they had won. And I think that I think that some things have happened, especially if you're watching what the Fed is doing by raising rates, it's killing Europe.
Right.
And I think if the Fed continues to raise rates, that it may actually destroy the European Union. So I think that's kind of that's kind of at a high level war that's going on between the elites crowd there and the bankers in the U.S. And the thing is, I don't think any of those people are good people. I mean, none of them are wearing the white hats. It's just the bankers have the same interests that we have right now. Right. So let's go bankers. It's it's sort of like when your most hated football team is playing your second most hated football team, and you're rooting for the second most hated football team because
Jamie Dimon has become Denzel Washington, where you're rooting for him like you're a piece of trash, but you're our piece of trash. I have to add to that, when you were talking about the World Economic Forum, that bill that Schumer was trying to push back, that whole green deal and all that. Have you read it? This is the best thing ever.
I haven't read the bill, but...
So it's the Manchin-Schumer bill.
Oh yeah, that's the one that they just passed. They just the agreement.
Do you know what that does? So you want to put a wind farm, all those little silly ass things? Fine. For every one of those, we're gonna drill in Alaska and drill on tribal lands like Dapple. Mm-hmm. Now, for every time you want to do solar panels, you want to do that? Awesome, great. We're gonna drill the shit out of this over here, and these Eskimos are gonna have to leave. That's what's in the bill, which takes the current carbon footprint in a decade. It makes it 40 times worse than it is today. There you go. That's why Manchin wanted his name on it, because all of his supporters in West Virginia and the gas companies that support his. So again, look what we did. You just made things worse. But by doing that, it's drilling here for oil, but less independence on Europe.
If you think about it, though, I mean, so if we don't do oil, we do electric, right?
Powered by oil.
But
exactly.
But
have you looked at the breakdown in cost to run an electric car? Because he really wants one. I'm like,
have you seen
more expensive?
It's actually not more expensive for the consumer. It's just more expensive.
That's another show. Focus. Let's go.
If you've seen on the internet, I mean, you can Google on the internet the pictures of how big of an area has to be excavated to get enough lithium for one battery. Right.
Don't say excavated, say eradicated, because nothing ever can grow there. Right. Because you're taking that ore out. It makes everything look like the Grand Canyon.
But you have to take out an entire. I mean, it's a crater that you make where your typical oil well is in the middle of a cornfield. It's not I mean, so arguably, the power for an electric car is more damaging to the environment than an oil well that's drilling enough oil to power 40 cars.
And fossil fuel, which is another funny, we're going to run out. You don't run out of oil, dumbass. That is a Rockefeller thing where they cause it fossil fuel so they could raise the prices on it. It is a naturally occurring substance. That's why we can get Crisco for $4. It's oil. It naturally occurs. We just have to refine it. But the other piece of this that I think is funny is that, again, you can do all these green initiatives. Where's that battery go when it's no good? You better chuck that bitch into space because it will rot. It will rot in the ground. There's no way for it to decompose like a regular battery.
New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, everything goes to New Jersey. Dead bodies, whatever it is. We don't care about New Jersey. I don't know if it's
still true, but at one time New Jersey had more hazardous waste sites than any other state at one time. I don't know if they still do.
In New Jersey, there's not an EPA. There's that. It's kind of over there. Listen, before we wrap, Kelly, I want to get your take on this. Should people just have all their documents at the door so when the Gestapo knocks, they should be able to just hand it, or should we just wait to be rated individually? Like, do you feel safer? Do you feel like you're safer in this country than you ever were before? Or do you feel like we live in a police state that just has really good TV?
I don't feel safer. I said to one of our partners the other day, like, this is not a great time to be a small business owner.
Nope. Yep. No.
This is, yeah. And when you look at who employs people in this country, it's mom and pa. It's small business owners. It's not major corporations. For all the promises they make, they didn't hire a lot. They built all the...
Well, yeah, I mean, Disney's the largest employer in the world, and when they have like 100,000 employees or something.
Right.
I mean, it's and they're the largest employer in the world, right? So,
but here's the thing I don't understand. When they said, we're going to raise taxes, and people go, yep, because at that point, we hate this man. Mm-hmm. This man is going to cause all these problems. I'm going to pay higher taxes. I don't think you understand, dumbass. When the prices go up like this and you're paying higher taxes, you're wiping out the middle class. And when this plan goes into play, you're looking at 2026 to 27 before you can change any of this. And that's if you flip to a different party.
Before the inflation started, the poverty level was about 15,000. That's where the government said, if you're a single person making 15,000 or less, then you're living in poverty, right? So double poverty is $30,000 a year, and double poverty is like the level at which you're actually able to subsist and pay all your bills and be able to live without huge struggles, right? So that was $30,000 a year. If you consider that over half of the country is currently working for $30,000 a year or less, like over half of the country, and with inflation, food prices are up by like 27 or something year to year, and gas prices are up like 45 or 50%.
It's to help Ukraine, though.
Year to year. But if you just take those two things and you say, okay, so I read an article that said that the average consumer is going to pay about $3,000 more a year for food and gas, just for food and gas, right? So if you're at double poverty, you're living at $30,000 a year, which over half the country is, and now 10% of your income that you were making before is going just to continuing to subsist. I mean, I think what you're doing is not only are you doing away with the middle class, but you're increasing the people who are actually in poverty. I mean, that poverty level probably actually shoots up to more like 20,000. I mean, I haven't seen any statistics of that, but because of that increase in the cost of living, you need more money to subsist. So naturally, the poverty level should come up. So it's not just a matter of you're moving people from the middle class to like a lower class where they're subsisting. You're moving people into abject poverty is what's happening.
But when they're distracted,
they're doing all the right things. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
We've run out of time. Kelly, thank you for being
That
here.
was as quick as you said it
I
would be.
told you, but once it gets humming, and you're going to be like, what? That's it? Yes.
Well,
and
when you have people as interesting as we are, it's really, you lose track of time.
I can't wait for the ass whipping that comes when the camera's off between
Just
everyone.
for the
here.
record, Nathan laughed hysterically at that, and really, I'm kind of offended.
I think that he was choking, but I want to say this. I want to leave people with a positive message. The government's coming for you. Sleep the sleep of angels. We'll see you next week.